Hello, General Math. This is Mr. Ward. Sorry I couldn't be in class today. My son is home sick with the flu, so I'm taking care of him right now. Today we're going to be walking through a few notes I was planning on walking with you anyway. Going to be jumping into a new section, which is section 4.4, which is called Adding Decimals. We're going to do that today. It's found on page 99 of your textbook if you want to know kind of where to look, if you want to see some more examples in the textbook. But the goal today, we're going to do a few problems right in the beginning where we're going to view some of your homework problems that you have that's due on Friday. That's tomorrow. I'm going to do one of each type of problem that you're going to have. Then we're going to intro adding decimals today. So I'm going to introduce you to a couple vocab terms, a couple different methods of trying to add decimals today. And so we're going to get to at least a couple examples. I want to do at least 2 or 3 examples of adding decimals today. Hopefully this makes sense to you. This is methods you've done before. It's just now applying this new concept to us. But again, this is a brand new section, so I want to make sure we are comfortable with this. So let's jump right in here. The big thing here, let's do a quick review of some of the words we've talked about previously. Obviously, if you're looking at this is something very similar to your book, what you're going to have in your homework that's due on Friday. What we're going to start here today is we're going to talk about descending order. Descending order. Descending order, if you don't remember, is a method of going from greatest to least, big to small. So in fact, let me just write that down. I want to go from big numbers to small numbers. That's what I want to do. Big to small, that's descending. We're going down, going to lower levels of floor, so the numbers are getting smaller as we go. That's kind of how I want to think of it. So I'm just going to pick one of these at random. I'm going to pick number 10. Let's start with this one first. The first thing, I need to figure out which number is the biggest. So I'm going to make them all the same length, because length makes no difference on the value, right? The actual value of the number. So if I make them all 3 digits behind the decimal point, like what we were talking about yesterday, is you actually look at like what it would be worth in terms of money, right? The first one, this is $8, and not even a penny. It's a less than a penny, right? It's almost 1 penny, so it's $8, almost even. The next one is $8.10, and then the last one is $8.07, because remember, pennies are the second decimal place. I think the best way I heard it yesterday, what you guys were explaining, is you guys were looking at the front numbers, and I think it was Sam that brought this up, was you guys looked at the front numbers and you guys ignored it because they all had 8s. And what you guys looked at was just the back number, and you ignored the decimal place. And you try to figure out what was technically the biggest number if you made them all the same sizes. So this middle number would have been 100. This number in the front was 9. This number back here was 79. So looking at which one's the biggest, to me, it's got to be the 8.1. Because, in terms of the numbers after the decimal, that is the number 100 after the decimal. That's a big number. The next biggest number, because we're working our way to the smallest, is 8.079. That's 79 compared to the 100. And then the last number, which would be the smallest technical number, would be $8 and, almost a penny, but it's 8.009. That is going from big number to small number in order. But I think what you guys said yesterday was like just looking at the numbers behind the decimal. If you got rid of the decimal place, what is the biggest number if you actually made them all the same sizes? I thought that was just perfect. Now let's do the same exact example, but now let's do it ascending order. Okay, so let me switch up the color. Let's go ascending order. Ascending order is when we're going from small to big, or least to greatest. That's the keywords that your book uses. Small would be least, that's the small, to greatest, which is the big number. That's what the book puts it as. And I think that's the instructions that you guys had in your homework. I'm going to pick one of these. I'm going to pick number 13. That's the one we didn't do yesterday. So again, kind of looking at examples here of number 13, I want to pick the smallest number. So I'm going to make them all the same sizes. Again, the front numbers don't make a difference, so I can ignore the 4s out front for right now. I'm looking at the back numbers. I need to make them all the same size. So I want them all 3 digits behind the decimal point. And again, adding zeros to the back doesn't make a big difference here. But now comparing which one is technically the smallest number, comparing these, I would actually say it's the 4.200. It's 200, right? The next small number is 4.228. because that would be the next smallest number, and then the biggest number would be the 2.93, because it's almost 293 after the decimal point. And again, that's going small to big. So least to greatest, that would be the greatest value. Because again, in terms of money, $4.20, $4.22, $4.29. You can kind of see which one would be the biggest number. But again, the length of the numbers don't make the difference. It's actually the value of it, and that's what we're looking at. Okay, again, you had a couple homework problems on this. I believe you had 1 through 5. So obviously this picture was from that page in your book. I believe it was page 96. I'll put the homework back on the board at the very end of class, and you can take your time and work on that again. Now, let's go to the next part here. I want to do an example of the second part of your homework. The second part of your homework was rounding numbers to certain place values. So I think we did number 1 yesterday. So let me check these off, because we did number 1. We definitely did this one. Let's do number 2. I don't think I did this one yesterday. But anyways, we're going to round to the 10th spot. The 10th spot is the 6 in this case. So we look at the number behind it. We check if that number is a 5 or larger. The number behind the 6 is a 2, so it's not 5 or larger, so the 6 will stay the same. And you chop off all the rest. So that's rounding to the 10th position. Now, starting over. And let me pick a different color here. Oop. Okay, now looking at the 100th position. The 100th position, that is this number. So we have to look at the number behind it. That number is not a 5 or larger, so that means the 2 will stay the same because it was not a 5 or larger. Kind of like what we did with the 6 earlier, and then you chop off all the rest of the numbers behind it. Okay, and then the last one is 1000th position. So let me switch the color up again. So thousandths would be this number. You look behind it, that number is definitely a 5 or larger, so that means the 2 will go up, or I should say the 1 will go up to a 2, and then you chop off the last number. So those are the problems we had. Now let me do another one, because I do like to do 2 of these at least to make sure that you understand what I'm doing here. So let's look at the last number here. Let's switch up the color. Okay, so let's look at number 8 here. Well, this is one that I didn't assign. So we're going to go to the 10th position. So 10th position is right here. We look behind it. If that number is a 5 or larger, that means the number I underline will go up. Well, the number behind it is a 6, so it will go up. So that means the 6 that I have here will turn out to be a 7, and then what I want you to do is chop off all the rest of the numbers behind it. So chopping off the rest of the numbers, you'd actually just make 4.7. Now, if you actually want to make decimals behind it, you can do that. Yeah, let's leave it red. All right. It actually looks like I can't write on that. That's weird. All right, but let's move on to the next one. Let me erase here. Let me erase these. Okay. So moving on to the next one, the 100th position. We look behind it. It looks like that is a 5 or larger, so that means the 6 will turn out to be a 7, and you chop off all the rest of the numbers behind. So that's pretty good. And again, I could have done that in the beginning up here. I could have added the zeros again. I don't know why it was not allowing me to do that. But again, if the number behind it is 5 or larger, that's when it goes up. If it's not a 5 or larger, the number will just stay the same. But again, you always chop off the numbers after the number you underlined. So in this case, I was underlining the 100th position. Then the last one here, we're starting all the way over. We're doing the 1000th position. The 1000th is the 5. We look behind it. If that is a 5 or larger, which it's not behind it, so that means the 5 will stay the same, because it was not a 5 behind it. It was small, and then we would just chop off it. We would just chop the numbers off. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for individual numbers. So when you actually do your homework today, you do have to make the full chart. So I do want you to make this whole chart. I think you had 3 through 7 as your homework problems on this chart. And again, it was the exact chart from this page. It was exercise H. Again, I'll put the homework pages back up on the board at the very end of class, but that's what I want you to do today. So again, if you want to see this again, I'll post it to my website. You can watch the videos over and over and over until you get what you have to do here. Hopefully this is clear enough you can actually see this. Okay, let's move on. Let's go on to the next slide, where we're going to be talking about some of the main key things here. We're going to be adding decimals. Okay, that's kind of the main idea what I want to cover here. I want to add decimals together. Okay, the vocab terms that I want to talk about here is I want to discuss, there we go, I want to discuss what the word sum of means. It means to add. find the sum of two numbers, it means to add, or find a total, increase it, add it, plus, more than. These are keywords that we've used to describe adding. Now, the big thing about these types of problems is we have to be really focused on the decimal point. This is key. You do need to worry about the decimal when you add rational numbers that contain decimals. The decimal point where you put it is extremely important. So we're going to look at a couple examples here. Now, there's two methods of adding. Okay, the two methods we have column method and we have grouping. Column is the go-to. It's the one that I use all the time. I'm going to show you here in a minute. I'm almost convinced that you probably will pick it as well. Grouping method is a method we use when you have a ton of different numbers you're trying to add together, and you're trying to reorganize it to make more sense in your head, like which ones you should add first. But the actual process of adding, I would recommend that you do column method. So let's do one example, then I'll do another one here in a minute. So I'm just going to pick a problem directly out of your book, and we're going to add it. So one of the numbers that I saw in your book was this. It was 3.9, and we're going to add it to 4.57. This is one of the numbers I saw in your textbook. When you add decimals, you want to line up the decimal points. So what I mean by that, it doesn't matter which number you put on the top when we do column method. I want to put 3.9. But when I write the next number below it, in a column, straight up and down, I want to line up the decimal points so that they're right on top of each other, like that. The decimal points are lined up. And then you can fill in numbers like zeros wherever you need to so that the numbers are the same length. When you add decimals, you start on the right side. You start over here. This is the right, and you're going to work your way to the left. Okay, it's just like adding whole numbers. You have to start on the right, work your way to the left, and as you add, you just add the columns down. If it turns out to be a 2-digit number, which you'll see on this example, you're going to carry the number over to the next column over. Okay, so let's start adding. So we're starting on this right side. So 0 plus 7, well, that would give you 7, because we're just adding. We go to the next column, 9 plus 5. 9 plus 5, that's 14. So since that's a 2-digit number, we'd have to carry the 1 to the next column. The decimal point will just come straight down. That's why we line them up. And then 1 plus 3 is 4. We add another 4, and that's 8. And this is your answer. Again, I do want you to do this by hand. No calculator in front of you. I want you to see if you can add by hand. And again, use your fingers if you need to. It doesn't really matter. Okay, that's adding decimals. Okay, now let's do a larger example, something that has more numbers in it, but exactly the same style. Okay, so let's go to the next page. Okay, so we're going to be adding decimals again. All right, so here we go. So one of the examples I saw in the book was this. It was 17 plus 0.352 plus 6.7. That was one of the problems in the book. So there's 3 numbers now. We're going to do column method. We're just going to stack all 3 numbers on top. Now, again, this 17 up here, I know that seems a little weird. It doesn't have a decimal. The decimal is always in the back. That's something I want you to know. But again, when we're going to line these up, I want to line up the decimal. It doesn't matter which number you put on the top. 17 is going on the top. Then I put the 0.352. So I'm lining up the decimal points so they're on top of each other. And then 6.7. And again, I want to fill in all the zeros so all the numbers have numbers above it and below it so that they're all the same length. And we're going to add all these numbers together. So we're going to start on the right side, and we're going to work our way to the left. We're working our way this way. Okay, so adding straight down, let me use a different color here. So adding straight down, adding 0 plus 2 plus 0, that's 2. 0 plus 5 plus 0 is 5. 0 plus 3 plus 7 is 10. So we're going to make that a 10. That's a 0. Carry the 1. The decimal comes straight down. 1 plus 7 is 8. Plus 0 is still 8. Plus 6. 8 plus 6 is 14. Carry a 1. And then we're adding straight down. 1 plus 1 is 2. Plus 0 is 2. Plus 0 is 2. So that's 24. And so this is the answer. Again, I know it's terrible penmanship, but it's 24.052. That's the answer. Okay. All right, so that's basically adding. Okay, subtracting has a couple other rules. We'll look at that. But adding, you just want to line up the decimal points and then just add right to left. again, it just comes down to, can you add the numbers together to find the correct numbers. If it's 2-digit, you carry the number over to the next column. We'll look at a couple more examples tomorrow. Again, this is just the intro. I told you, we were going to be going to this section today. We'll be eventually playing some more like hands-on activity games where we try to add, and we'll try to throw some competition in here and stuff. So we'll possibly look at that tomorrow. But now your homework today. This is the homework that I assigned yesterday in class. It's due tomorrow, so keep that in mind. I want you to work on it for the rest of class. Thank you for turning in your worksheet yesterday. I know a lot of you submitted the worksheet that was on your Google Drive to me. Thank you, I got that. Remember, you are still working on the assignment that's written on the board. That's your page 92. If you have not finished that, if you have not turned that in, you want to do that. I don't think anyone turned that in as of yet. And that was 1 through 9 odds, 2 through 8 evens, 1 through 9 all. That was the one that was due, I think, Tuesday this week. So if you had not turned that in, make sure that's in. And then this assignment is due tomorrow, page 96. So make sure you are working on this. 96, 1 through 5, exercise C. Make sure you read the instructions. I believe you're reorganizing these into, I think, it's ascending order, so getting from small to big. And then this last one, page 98, was the chart problem, where you are trying to round the number they provided you to certain values. So you always start over and round it. Okay, so make sure you're writing out the whole chart. And I've done almost every problem in that chart for you, except for the ones I assigned. Okay, so again, not a lot of homework. Make sure you're working on it. If you borrowed calculators from me yesterday, make sure you return them. I do need them today. All my classes definitely need them, especially my pre-calc. Okay, thank you. I'll see you tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your day.